Great. Well, let's get going. Welcome to everybody joining the conversation today. We are going to be exploring the value of mentoring and what it is and personal experiences. And it's really fantastic. I'm actually here to facilitate the conversation today. We've got Juliet, who everybody obviously knows, and Heidi, who's been on quite a few of our presentations already and contributing to some great discussion. And we have Ruth Barber coming to join us soon as well. She's just sitting in another Zoom at the moment. Here she comes. Let's let her in.
She heard you.
She did. Welcome, Ruth.
Yes, I just want to ask those sitting in the audience, if you could just mute yourselves until you want to ask a question, just so we make sure we don't get any unnecessary noise in the Zoom. Okay, go ahead.
Great, we were just welcoming you actually, Ruth. So welcome to the conversation.
Thanks.
So we really have an expert panel today, but just to say hello and introduce myself, my name's Jo Sweetland and I work alongside Juliet at Streams Education, which is an online community of home educators, and our heart is really to encourage and equip and connect home educators around the country. And one thing we started recently was inviting experts and well-experienced home educators to come and join us as mentors, because what we have recognised and really feel passionately is we grow in expertise throughout our years as home educators, and we accumulate this knowledge and different ways of doing things. And then our kids graduate, they move on, they leave home, they step out of home ed, and we kind of disappear, a lot of us, and we go, oh, we've done our home ed. And we are really excited and really passionate about actually grabbing that wisdom and grabbing that knowledge and really wanting to share it, because when you're a newbie, when you're starting out, it's pretty overwhelming. And just from a personal experience, I know when I started home educating 7 years ago, it was not a planned jump into home ed. We ended up there all quite quickly and by default, really. And I was desperate to talk to people who were already home educating. I was desperate to learn and understand. And I had questions: what do we do? How do we do it? What does a day look like? All those early questions, which once you've been home educating for a while, you just roll with. And that's where I know personally, I would have loved a home ed mentor, because I just needed someone to come alongside me and go, you can relax, you can chill, you can take time out, you can de-school, you can step into a rhythm which suits your family as and when you're ready. So that was my own journey, and I'm really excited. We have Ruth, Juliet and Heidi. And so I'm just going to ask each one of them just to introduce themselves and share a little bit about their experience of either being mentored or mentoring other people. So shall I pass on to Ruth? Why don't you go first?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name's Ruth Barber, and yeah, I think I've been home editing probably, I think we're into the year 20, somewhere like that. So our eldest are 23. Obviously, we never had our children in school at all. They did go to a nursery, but we pulled them out fairly quickly and launched into home education without any kind of anybody around that we knew that was doing it. Just a vague connection with my brother's wife. Already had children and she was home educating, but America's a whole different kind of place. So I didn't know anybody, didn't have anyone around, and it was a bit of a rough ride, probably. You know, you have all the questions, you have all the what ifs, don't you? And you're handling all those. It just does feel like a huge weight that's kind of just up there, just ready to crash down and squash you. That's how it felt. But, you know, we believed it was the right thing. My husband was fully on board. And so we just kind of took the plunge, and yeah. But I do think, you know, the more we kind of went on and the more we found others, the relief and the release that brought in was just like incredible, because even just to find others, I remember in the early days of the internet, I mean, we you know, I remember going up into the little bedroom, and, you know, I wasn't very good at surfing on the internet. It was a brand new thing, you know. It feels really strange to say that now, doesn't it? But, you know, it was kind of quite a long time ago. And just finding I think it's the CHESS page, Christian Home Education Support Service, which obviously I'm now involved in, but just finding that and thinking, we're not on our own. There are others that do this thing, you know. And that was the beginning of us kind of networking and finding, in those early years, finding kind of others. But obviously they weren't near to us. So yeah, so to have had somebody to actually be able to talk to and just say, are we mad? No, we're actually, this is okay. And that would have been really special. And I know now that just when I talk to people, I know people who are starting off and they're just so much more confident starting out because they've had the benefit of being able to say, well, what about this? And there's one or two really good books that we can recommend that they can read that just fill in some of the background, and all that just, I think, makes the transition and just helps to lift that kind of weight of the unknown.
Thank you, Ruth.
Okay,
fantastic. Heidi.
Hello, everybody, or good morning still there for you. It's good evening here in Australia. So I've been home educating for about 8.5 years and very much on the tail end now. I don't actually want to admit it. I think it's over. However, I mentor and coach teens and mothers of teenagers, so mainly facilitating the process of the mother actually becoming the coach for the teenagers or young people as well. So there's a few mothers with younger children following me as well. So I became a coach in 2021, and it was very natural to bring some of those skills to our to our own family as well. When I first started home educating, I know what you're saying though, Ruth, because I just asked everybody, and I had the notes section on my phone filled with apps they recommend and books they recommend and different co-ops. And I went to every co-op and mummy dinners to try to find my tribe and the tribe for my kids as well. And hopefully, that matched up. So we went to everything until my boys said, Mom, we're homeschooling, can we stay homeschooling in Australia? So we're home educating, but can we please stay home? So we found our tribe. So very much loved the experience of the other mums for sure. And not saying unqualified, but unaware that the experienced home educators were actually mentors to the new ones. So we didn't even call them that. We called them our new friends as well. But to have somebody formal all the time, you don't want to bother your friends all the time, or they've got their families, but to have a home educating mentor that through like streams or so that you can just contact is amazing. Yeah. So.
Thank you, Heidi. I've got a question to give you in a moment, but let's introduce Juliet first, who obviously I think we all know very well.
Yes, I love the twirling of your hair there, Juliet. It's beautiful.
It's a bit long, needs a haircut. I didn't have time for that. But so, I've also been home educating quite some time, so 25 years, so even less internet when I started than when Ruth did. And it's interesting how you do hear about home education, actually, when there's no internet. And for us, it was like my husband picked up a magazine, actually, in waiting in the checkout, and it happened to be, I think it was a Christian magazine, and had an article about home educating, or in South Africa we use homeschooling, and they happened to mention some like meeting going on about half an hour's drive from where we lived, and we decided like that was the very next evening, and we went along to that talk, and on the basis of that talk we fully started investigating. And I can't actually remember how. I think we could email. We could email back then, I think, and I think I emailed somebody, and they sent me information about people in my area, and contacted one, and she's still a friend today. And that was, went and sat with her and chatted with her, and it was very much that like in real life kind of contact that we had. And it's interesting because she kind of switched the tables at some point, where she kind of was sort of looking at what I was doing and thinking, oh, I love what you're doing. And I'm like, no, wait a minute, you're my hero. We can't switch that around. So, but we do need those people. And I think even though there's a lot of information out there, we still need that personal, somebody, a real person to reassure you. And the issue that we often have is, like, even if you look on these Facebook groups and that kind of thing, yes, you can get a lot of support and they are fantastic, but there's also a lot of misinformation. Or people that may be only a year or so in, and they've only sort of grasped the tail end of something, and they're kind of then speaking that out as if that's the be all and end all, and that and actually it does take years and years of that seasoning to really kind of seep through and living it, and actually then having the proof at the end. So when you've actually gone all the way through, because I used to say nobody has any business telling parents how to parent if their children are under the age of 12, because they haven't been gone the whole way. And for some of us, we may have to wait till our children are 35 to know if what we did paid off or not. So, but at least we've got the t-shirt and we've worn it inside out and backwards, and scrubbed the floors with it a bit as well. So we do have that. I find that the difficulties that I've been through in my life, people who've going through difficulties in their life, it helps them, that they can see that actually, I've come through on the other side. So mentoring is something that's always come fairly natural to me, because I'm a people person. I love people and I love to help them and support them. So I do it freely. But what we're doing, like on streams, is we are sort of putting a price to it, just because we want to respect people's time and their experience. So yes, I'm doing mentoring more formally now, but it is just something I think you can't help yourself from doing. When you see somebody has a need, you want to support them and help them.
And you are definitely a natural encourager, Juliet. I think we can all vouch for that.
Thank you.
And as you've been talking, Heidi, I want to pick up quite quickly on you mentioned that you're a coach. Obviously, coaching, mentoring, possibly interchangeable or maybe not, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the difference between what is a coach and what is a mentor.
Yeah, some people do interchange that quite a lot, and apologies, because I'm not sure of the definitions that you use there in the UK. It could be different in different countries as well. I can use a metaphor of riding a bike, and it will include a therapist as well. So when you have, say, your young person and there's a bike there and you want to teach them to ride a bike, or they want to learn how to ride a bike, the young person a therapist might say, have you ridden a bike before? What are your fears about riding a bike? Are you afraid of the gears, or are you afraid of, and then deal with the fears they may have about riding a bike. A mentor might say, this is the bike I had, and it's a great bike, and it's a red bike. You should get a red bike. It worked really well for me and everything that I've done. Hop on this red bike, and actually, no, stand there. Watch me ride the bike. I will show you the way I ride the bike. You watch, and then you can do it. So a mentor is more showing the skill in the way I look at mentoring and coaching. So showing a skill, still helping them achieve the goal of, with the intention of helping them achieve the goal of being able to ride the bike, and shares knowledge and skills and experience on how to do it, but usually demonstrates or says, this is the way I did it. I did it this way. Whereas a coach would say, what bike do you want? You want to learn to ride a bike. Do you want a 3-wheeler bike, a 2-wheeler bike with training wheels? What color bike do you want? So what side do you want to get on the bike? Do you want to get on the right side or the left side? I'm here with you. More like the vision I have of my dad running beside me when I was riding the bike. And so you can do it, very encouraging. You can do it. You've got this, running with them until they're off, and you're celebrating with them. Yay, you've got it. You've achieved your goal. You're riding the bike, and then letting them go. So that's really the differences that I see between the mentor and the coach. So very similar skills they could need as well. However, the mentor is more instructive and telling and maybe giving advice and sharing stories. And then, but the coach is more questioning, more getting detail and more listening and reflecting back what we're seeing, feeling and hearing appropriately. Like we reflect that, not, oh, you seem like you're pretty afraid of that, like we reflect back, oh, is there something you're afraid of there? You reflect back appropriately. So I can, go on. But that's basically how I see the difference between mentor and coaches. And some mentors do use coaching skills though. Yeah.
I think that's great. There's a lot there, isn't there, about improving performance as a coach and increasing an ability to do something. But I love that example of, demonstrating how you've done it yourself, because there's so much, as Juliet just said, there's so much wisdom in that. We've lived it, we've done it. And I know, for example, 7 years into home education, I feel so much more confident about, telling people at the beginning to relax and de-school. Whereas, at the beginning, you're like completely panicking, going, oh, what should I be doing? And it's lovely now to come alongside some of the new home educators I meet in Bristol and just say, it's fine, you just need to take some space. You just need to. Do I need to do this or this or this? And it's like, no, actually, and I don't even feel an experienced mentor, but even just that beginning part of the journey, just being able to say, you can stop, you can breathe. There's no need for a curriculum at the start. You can just take your time and work out what works for your family. And something which I imagine all three of you are very good at doing.
I think I kind of hear what Heidi's saying, but to me, in a way, like a coach, I kind of see it as more like a formal thing. It's like more of a formal relationship, whereas for me, mentoring is like the warm fuzzy. And to me, that's the coming alongside, is the mentoring. So it's interesting just from what a word can mean, how it can be different for different people. So yeah, I think to me, the mentor also has the connotation of being older and wiser. In that sense of like having lived it. I don't know if
I loved what Joe, sorry Julia, I loved what Joe said, when it was almost like you're the mentoring and yet still allowing space to say, with your comment, Joe, about and then you can work out what's right for your family. And that's where the coach part came in. So you said, relax, it's okay, you'll do it, just read that or take your time. It's like, that's where your skill and sharing what the wisdom, Juliet, as you say, the wisdom that you've been there, done that. And then you can find out what works for your family, because I can't tell you what works for your family, but I've got experience on the types of questions you might want to ask and the things you might want to look for in your children to work out what is right for your family. Yeah.
And so I'd love to pick that up as a question with all of you, actually, how perhaps in your own experience, how you've come alongside people, and whether that's in formal mentoring in terms of a more professional relationship, I suppose, in a way that you've gone to a mentor to seek, people have come to you for professional, for want of a better word, advice. But also, my understanding, Ruth, is you're absolutely wonderful at just coming alongside people and loving them where they're at and supporting them and releasing them into the journey of home education. So there's this full range of how we can support and mentor and come alongside. I would love you, perhaps whoever would like to go first, just to share of how what skills you see you use, or how you've come alongside, or a story to share of someone you've connected with. I think that would be an encouragement.
Shall I pick up that one then, just to start with? I think probably the main way that we've done that is when you've been around a lot. I think people locally tend to, and certainly for us when we're in churches and in Christian circles, people get to know, they think of the barbers and they think, oh yes, they're the ones that teach at home. And I think for us, there's been a lot of kind of people contacting us, or people saying, we know somebody who wants to do or is just started. Can I put you in touch? And I think it's almost like our reputation has gone before us and people have actually come to us. So I think one of the ways that we've mentored and that's just kind of happened because of that is just by making our home available. So if we hear anybody like that, the first thing we do is say, well, why don't you come over and we can have a chat? come and have a meal with us, or, and I think that is the thing, our home is what it is. It's quite often a mess. We've got 6 boys and an even untidier daughter. Hope she doesn't listen to this. And, but that doesn't worry me, because I know that there's reasons why it's like that. We're not about having a show home. We're about making it work to bring 7 children up. And, that is going to create whatever it creates. But that, it's welcome into our world, and just being open and just saying, well, yeah, just come alongside, obviously we've got a garden that we can use. The kids all go off and play. And it's amazing to just see how no matter who comes, whatever children come, they all get on really well. They just kind of, and the parents, we can just sit and talk, and then you get all the questions. We can show them what books we've used. We can show them crafts that the children have done. And it's just really just saying, come and have a look at what we do, and ask us any questions. And so I think that's one strand that, over many years that has consistently happened. And that's just, that's not us saying, oh, let's try and find people. It's like people have found us. People have been directed to us. So that's quite interesting, because we weren't kind of expecting that, but it's a delight and a joy to do. And I think the other side is just a conscious decision. I mentioned chess. Well, that's something where I wanted to give back, because we received so much from that particular community. So, when I got to a point that I felt I had a little bit of time to carve out, then I began to get involved in places where I could actually do that more formally. So, now I kind of answer a lot of emails, run sessions like this, and it's just an extension of what you do as a home editor, isn't it? You just are kind of naturally available and want to help others, as Juliet was saying. So I think for us, that's 2 ways. It's just one that we've sought out, but one that's just happened because people learn about who you are, and they want to know more, basically. And there's a steady, it's not a lot, but there's a steady stream of people that are just contacting us from locally, and just saying, can I talk to you about it?
I think that's so beautiful, Ruth, and I love that intentionality as well, that right from the beginning you wanted to connect and be welcoming when people came in. And I feel there's like a responsibility for us as older home educators to be really looking out for the newbies. And I think as we're seeing quite a big exit,
find a community for us as well within that, because obviously no man's an island. We need others, don't we? Yes. So there was, it actually was a 2-way thing.
And I think we therefore have to, like you did, actively be willing to receive, whether it's you see a post on Facebook, or whether you clock someone in the park, or I think you can quite often spot someone who's new to home education because their kids aren't in school and it's the wrong time of the day. And it's like, I think that moral responsibility really to be making sure that we're really looking out for people, that we're coming alongside, that, in an informal mentoring way, we're making sure that particularly the newbies feel really welcome, and that they're not having to sail alone.
Yeah, again, another thing with that is that I think more recently, we've got to a stage where our children are all kind of doing exams or heading in that direction. And I think for me, there's been a sense that I could have sat back and kind of thought, I'm not needed quite as much. But I think instead, what I've kind of felt is a conviction that actually maybe I need to be putting myself out more, and putting myself in places where I can meet with people. And, there have been 2 or 3 families, I would say, where that has been key for them. The fact that I didn't particularly want to go necessarily for my own interests, but I just felt compelled to go because there might be people that need that experience and what I can bring. And I think that's, I've had to make myself and commit, I think, to kind of sometimes going along to meets that, my boys don't need that these days, but other people need us. And I think that's very much a conviction that I carry, is that there's this obligation that people need help, and we need to be there for each other, don't we? It's about community. It's not about I've ticked all my boxes, so therefore, and I think when you're saying about older ones, I think I carry that conviction as well, that when we have finished, our youngest is 14 now, so we're kind of getting to the back end. But when we finish, I want to still be available, because I just feel it's just so important. And it's such a fantastic lifestyle. I just think it's the only way that really sets your children up for their kind of unique futures. And so I'm very invested in that, even when we stop.
Well, you've set a beautiful challenge for all of us, Ruth, to not jump ship when we head towards the end. So thank you. Juliet, I'm sure you have some thoughts to share.
I was trying to remember what the original question was that you asked, Ruth.
The question was, oh, now you've got me, around where you feel what the skills are, or examples of where you've come alongside as a mentor, whether informally, and any reflections on that in terms of your experience.
Yeah, I think certainly, you know, I mean, I trained as a social worker before I got married and had children. So obviously there was something in me originally, which, you know, is a desire to help people, because you don't, you know, that's generally people go into something like social work. And over the years, I've also recognized that one of my giftings, if you want to call it that, is wanting to, when I see a need, I try and figure out something to fill that need. So for that reason, every city I've ever lived in, I've set up a home education support group. And interestingly, my focus has always been on the parents. So yes, the children would get together and the children would play, but for me, it was always about seeing the mothers and fathers that needed the support and the encouragement, that they, you know, feeling uncertain, feeling, you know, intimidated, feeling maybe worn down by negativity from family, and having all that self-doubt. And from very early on, I just always felt home education is such a wonderful, positive thing. You know, how can we support one another to really, you know, get the most that we can out of it? And when we moved to the UK, it was kind of interesting because I wanted to set up a group. And one of the first things somebody said to me is, well, we need to work out the activities for the children. And I was like, what? The children? You know, it's not about the children, it's about parents, you know, because in South Africa, we had this wonderful warm weather. So you would meet in each other's gardens. The kids would be gone in these big, huge South African gardens. They just disappear. And the mums and dads would sit around and have a cup of tea, talk about a home educating book or something. And we'd have it was about supporting one another. And so when we came to the UK, obviously, so our group was, yes, it's more indoors. The weather can be awful. You need to have something to keep the children busy because they cannot just be left to run riot in a church hall for an hour and a half or whatever. So we had to change the approach, but my attitude has always been more to support parents. So we would try and also make sure that we're chatting to parents and finding out what they need, and if they were newcomers, making them feel welcome. And so even now today, when I deal with people, it's really about how can I get you from that, you know, little brow being furrowed with worry to a big smile on your face and feeling like, yes, I can do this. And that is an amazing thing, because you can have a conversation with somebody and they can go from really concerned, really worried, fearful, all of those sort of emotions. And then at the end of that, like, you know, yeah, and I can do this, you know, and that's what we want, because a confident parent can raise a confident child. A parent who's second guessing themselves and is double-minded and unsure, you know, you're going to, that's going to affect the child. So, so that's kind of really where I come from, is, you know, we want to like transform that face and help sort of with confidence. And I think it is about coming alongside, listening really well to hear where people are at, because a lot of people, like, you know, people who are dealing with children with special needs, that's not something I've particularly had to deal with. So I need to really listen and kind of hear how it's impacting the parent, and if I feel that I'm ill-equipped to deal with it, it's beyond my experience, and then I would point them in the direction of somebody that I felt could support and help them. And I think that's also important, is to know your limitations. And this panel is really about what is the value of mentoring, and you know, it only works, it's a relationship that works kind of in balance, but you don't want to always be the expert. You want that person to also feel like they can see you as a friend and an equal. And how do you bring them to that place where they feel sort of equal to you, and equipped and confident, and actually then they will go on and help others. And like you, Joe, you know, where you're just sharing things and you're sort of thinking, well, I'm not quite sure if I'm saying the right thing, but this is how I feel. But you know, you're helping other parents get to that place of actually being able to be that support and help for others. And that's part of that transformative power of home education, actually.
That's a truth bomb right there, Juliet.
Right there. Boom.
Heidi, any reflections to share?
Oh yes, just listening to you all. I loved it. Really had a charge on it earlier when you said, Ruth, just I think it was in your introduction about helping, and you felt it too, relief and release. I love that. And so you've gone on and helped others with that. And then I think Juliet just said, you know, getting rid of that furrow. It's like that relief and release of whatever was troubling them. You know, when we became mothers too, or became parents, it felt like we were in well, for me, it felt like I was in a new club. And then now going into home educating, I'm just hearing now, I'm going, yes, we are in like this home ed club, and we're looking after each other, you know, this family, and passing the baton. Is that what you call it there too? In like a relay race, you know, you pass that baton on to go and help somebody else and help somebody else. And Ruth, I was hearing like, you're so inspiring and humble. You know, it's like 7 children, and Juliet's got them heap of children as well. Yeah, very, very inspiring to then go and give back. So I guess that's my reflection. We've done it naturally. I think we've done it naturally, and now it's become it is. We've put the name. I think that sharing and helping other people has then come. We've then put the word on it. We're mentoring or coaching, you know, the community. So yeah, mostly growing up children now. Absolutely, been there, done that. Juliet got lots of wisdom to share. So that's the main reflections that I have, that it felt like that we're passing that baton on and helping. And, you know, when you were talking, Juliet, about that, it is about the parent and helping the parent. And I'm thinking, yes, but to help the parent, it is around the children. And then you tied the bow by saying, you know, confident parent raises confident children. So really, by mentoring and passing that baton and helping people feel confident, and then knowing that they can do it too, is changing generations. We're changing generations, you know, and I say a change maker mum is changing generational struggles with ease. And in that community, we can change those generational struggles with ease, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Heidi. I just want to pick up on Nielle's comment, which she's put into the chat about starting a home ed journey abruptly and deschooling, finding our tribe, frustrations with family. Sorry, I didn't read that right. Tough family difficulties. There's always a lot going on, and life doesn't stop, does it, to sort of adjust? And the beginning can be quite bumpy. I know for us it definitely was, and it took us a good 18 months to find our tribe. Julia, I'm going to ask you specifically, what kind of, Nielle's sharing what's a very real experience, I think, for a lot of home educators at the beginning. And I'm wondering what your words of wisdom would be in those situations, coming alongside as a mentor.
So which bit specifically?
I think the beginning bit, in terms of that you suddenly start and it's not planned. I meet people who are very well planned in their home education journey, and they're thinking about it when their kids are 3. You know, we jumped ship when my son was 10 and my girls were 6. And I wasn't planned at all. So
well, what I love about that question, actually, because I do love that question, is because when we first start home educating, we only see this much. You know, we're taking that little step. And we had a talk at Learn Free a few years ago where it likened about to do with migration. So if you say, for instance, you plan to move countries, but there's a plan. You want to move countries. You go and you do your research. You've got the job waiting. You go and research where you want to live. You go and find out where what's on offer in the area. And you, like in our case, when we came over, we found a church to join because we felt we would need some sort of community. And you go there and you kind of have some plans in place. But then sometimes people are forced to leave. They never, their country, they never planned to leave, but they've had to flee because it was such an unpleasant situation where they were, and they haven't had time to do that research, and they just have to go. And they arrive in their new place and they don't know where, you know, for instance, to use that analogy, you know, like, well, where do I apply for that? And which school am I going to put my children in? And, you know, you're uncertain of all, where are we going to live? We don't know where we're going to live, and we don't have enough money, whatever it is. Now, that is more of a refugee thing. And we're finding a lot of home educators now are refugees from the system, and they haven't had that time to do the research and go and find out everything. But it doesn't matter how you arrive at home education. A lot of people arrive in that way, and they are having to scramble a little bit. But when you start to get sight of all the possibilities that home education offers, and you get a little vision of how life could now be, you step out towards that vision. And as you're stepping out towards that vision, everything starts to open up, and you're like, oh yeah, this means this, and oh, this means this, and oh, that means, and suddenly you're like, oh wow, look, there's all, you know, you get to the point where you like suddenly realize this world of possibility. And what we see is that as that parent goes from that journey, that very tentative beginning, and they start stepping out and seeing this lovely land that's waiting ahead of them, you know, they start to change. And we see parents, nervous, unsure, tentative parents in the beginning, but talk to them 3 or 4 years later. And this is what the conference is really about. It's transformative. And yes, you've started abruptly, Liel, but in 3-4 years' time, you're going to be a different person. And we're going to be having a whole different conversation. You might even be on this panel, because you will grow and you will come through that journey. You're discovering a new land. There's lots to discover, but you will get there. You will get there. And you know, that's where you also just need to trust yourself and trust your children. We haven't had our parents model this for us. This is new territory. And so be kind to yourself because it's new territory, but also be excited because good changes are coming. And, you know, it's, yes, you'll take your time to find your feet. That's just normal. It will take you time. But do seek out the people that can encourage you and be your cheerleaders along the way. And just speak a little bit of courage into you every now and again when you need it.
That's so good, Julia. And I think at the beginning, that sense of finding your tribe, finding people you connect with. Ruth, you were about to say something. I interjected, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was just, Heidi talked a lot about confidence, and Juliet also just talked about confidence. And I really think that's a key, because I think, you know, when you're talking to people, if you are not confident, then that's when people worry and people think, oh, you know, my goodness, and they start asking you more and more questions. And I think we do really need to have the courage of our convictions. We make the decision that we feels best, and we really need to believe that that is the right and a good decision. Because if you can kind of just find courage to say, right, this is it, we're going for it, then I think you put across a confidence, and that allays a lot of fears. So when I think in particular as well, when you're talking about perhaps the local authority, or you're talking about parents that perhaps are struggling to be on board, you know, if you can actually just confidently say, look, we've looked at, you know, there are reasons, I mean, maybe they'll know what they are, maybe they don't, but just say, look, you know, we've looked into this, we believe it's absolutely the best thing. And that can silence a lot of the you know, the questions that would pull you down. I think just to say, even if you don't understand the full picture, like Juliet was saying, to just have that courage of your convictions and say, no, this is the right thing for us. You know, it most definitely is. And then, yeah, you might not know all the details of how it's going to work out. But just having that confidence makes a lot of people back off. And I think it's really important that we really grasp that, that, you know, you have to rise up, don't you, encourage and say, look, we've made this decision, we've thought about it. It's not been something we've just dropped into. It's a conscious decision we've taken. So, you know, we're going to be bold and courageous about that, and just come at it on the front foot. And I think that can just really help you to get the respect and to get the you know, the approval. We don't do it to have approval, but you know what I mean, just to deflect all that negativity. I think just being confident. goes a long way.
Ruth, I completely agree with that from a very personal perspective at the moment, because of course you start and you gather your confidence and you go along and you're thinking, yes, I'm home educating, and then you hit these sort of significant parts of life, you know. So with my son being 16, and we should really be doing GCSEs if we were using an education model based in the UK, and suddenly you hit this next obstacle because your children are growing and their life is changing, and you have this decision to make. And we decided as a family that we wouldn't do GCSEs, and we're exploring alternative routes with him, and he's thriving and it's great. GCSEs would not have worked, but I remember it took so much confidence when I'd meet people and they go, oh, so how are you going to do GCSEs? And I'd be like, well, we're not. And at the beginning, my whole world destabilized across the whole board, because I was suddenly like, are we making the wrong decision? Is this the bad choice? And yet again, this is where I think it's so important, isn't it? We listen to our children as well, because actually my son's been my mentor in that journey, because he's come alongside me and gone, no, but we've made this decision together and this is right for me. And we're on this journey. And so he's given me the confidence to then confidently speak, you know, when I've been challenged or when people have looked, you know, a bit confused. Oh, you're not doing GCSEs, aren't you worried? You know, you're ruining your kid forever. And I'm like, no, because look at him. My confidence, you know, is in that decision because we made it together and actually found people who were on similar journeys as well. So yeah, I agree completely. You know, the obstacles keep coming. We think we're cruising, and then there's another moment. So Heidi, I think you had a reflection to add too.
Yes, I do, because I love the power of words and looking deeper into the words. And everyone, like you've been saying, to look outside. We hear things from outside and do your research. And one thing I think that a lot of, you know, us long-termers sometimes forget is, because we may have lost ourselves and found ourselves, or maybe we stayed connected because of our beliefs all the time. Many mothers come to me and say, I've lost myself in all of this, working out, maybe, you know, coming from one country to another, and this was abrupt, and I'm going, I don't know who I am. I'm not connected to me anymore. And so we've got this opportunity at the moment to also do all the research outside, hear from outside and try it on. Does that resonate with me or not? But going back to, here we go. Is it pronounced Lyle or Leal? I'm not sure of the pronunciation.
It's Leal.
Leal, beautiful.
Yes. Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. Now I want to say I'm hearing, but of course I'm reading. So what I'm hearing from when I read your story, though, love, is that okay, that we know that it might have been abrupt, etc., and the transport is limited. But going further down, you said, like, you're trying to solve the problem yourself, as to say how. And that's admirable. You know, you say sometimes don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution. And you've almost said a solution you've come up with so far is that you need to get out there and find meaningful connections near and far. So what I would ask yourself now is, what is meaningful? What is meaningful connection to me? How will I know that I've got meaningful connections for myself, my family, my children? What is meaningful? What would you need to see? What would you need to feel? What would you be doing? What would you be feeling when you had meaningful connections? What is that like? So with clarity comes that confidence. With clarity and that confidence comes change. So you've got the outside, you're doing your research, you're hearing from anyone, but you're also connecting to yourself, going, what is meaningful? Because this is in line with what Juliet was saying. Meaningful is out there. It is in your vision. It is there. But what about if you end up here and it's not quite meaningful? You'll eventually go over here, but you could have avoided going there because you would have known that, no, that's not it. This is it. So you can save time as well by just being clear on what is a meaningful connection for your family, you know, and it's different for everyone because we have different values as well. Meaningful might be playing basketball, you know, or it might be doing needlework, or it might, you know, what is meaningful, you know, that you can speak your truth and not just talk about the weather. You want real connections, or you may want, no, I'm on the spectrum, I can't do much, you know, you know, we had a party once for Joshua's 12th, I think it was his 12th birthday, 11th or 12th. We had more people at his party than our wedding, because we invited homeschoolers, and of course they all brought their siblings, and we had this part on the veranda all set up for the mums that were neurodivergent and they needed their quiet time, you know. So you want to be in a you know, community that respect you too and get you, but still don't exclude you. You know, they were there still at the party and they could come in and whenever they liked, but they could also have their space. So yeah, that was a thing that had a press. And I've also got something else to show you if you've all got pen and paper, but somebody else might want to talk first.
Well, I just really like to quickly pick up on, we've talked a lot about the informal mentoring and how we come alongside each other on the journey and the strength in that. Julia, I'm going to ask you a direct question. When do you feel there might be an occasion, I think we've hinted at this, where actually it's really worth investing in a more formal relationship? So still the relational mentoring, but actually perhaps investing, whether it's finances or time, to really seek someone out where you can come to someone and say, I'm stuck, or I've hit a wall. Where would you see that being a good opportunity to reach out?
Yeah, I think you know, if certainly a time that would be good is if you are feeling stuck, and perhaps you have spoken to other people and it's not really helping. And you know, if you really want to be intentional, because I think there's got to be some intentionality with entering into that kind of a relationship, or whether you call it counseling or coaching or mentoring, you know, there's an intentionality where you're saying, look, you know, I need help, I want to move forward. Who would I like to speak to? Who do I feel could be that person for me? And you can actually either, you know, then decide. So like Streams, we have a mentoring page, and you can actually go and read the descriptions of the different people and what they offer. And you might say, you know what, this person sounds like somebody that would understand me, and I'm going to speak to them. Because once again, also, as Heidi was talking about coaching and mentoring, it's what is your intention? So say, for instance, you just want to know more about Charlotte Mason. It's not really about you so much, but you want to know, how do you do the Charlotte Mason approach? Then you might say, okay, I want to speak to Leah Bowden, but I want to specifically know about the approach. This is not about, like, I'm actually feeling okay. But, you know, so it depends on where you're at in your journey and what you want to get from it, and that how you choose that person. Because someone, you know, it could be a friend. It doesn't have to be a paid mentor necessarily. But if you're wanting someone who's really got the experience and so on, you know, are you willing to express that intention and really value their time and have an intentional 1-hour conversation with somebody, where they are 100% there for you, and they know that you're there to get the value you need. So yeah, I think it's got a lot to do with your intention and how, you know, how deep your need is to move on, because you're investing in your long term. You're investing in your children through getting help, or, you know, assistance or guidance for yourself. That long term, you may reap the benefit. So, you know, are you prepared to muddle along and maybe go on feeling for a much longer time feeling the way you're feeling right now? Or would you like to, you know, in 6 months' time, see that you've moved on and you've had support and you've had help and encouragement, and somebody really just help you move from point A to point B in your life? I'm sure Heidi's got a lot to say on this as well, so I'm going. I think she can jump.
Am I nodding up and down?
You are.
I love this panel. I love this panel. Yeah. So a friend sometimes can actually keep you where you are, because, you know, they love you and don't want to expand you and help you think some, you know, not all friends, but, you know, we might have that friend that stretches us and others that just agree with you. Whereas, you know, the coach or mentor might say, you know, that accept what you're saying, but not agree with you, because you know it gets better. You know they can get through this as well. So I agree that if you're going through the same thing over and over again. I've actually got, I know we're coming towards the end. Are we going to be strict? We're strict with the 9:30. Otherwise, I can share this maybe at lunch, because I want everybody to draw something. I'd love everybody to draw.
Yeah, I don't think we've got about 3 minutes left. So, and then this Zoom needs to get used for the lunchtime Zoom.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah. Well, I can share it in the lunch if people want it. It's something along the lines what you were saying before, Joe. When you get to a point where we start panicking, then what? You know. So it's just a visual that helps. Yeah.
Heidi, we'd love you to share that, and I'm really grateful. I'm conscious of the time, so just to invite everybody to reach out. Juliet, Heidi, Ruth, they're in and out of conference all the time. Obviously, Juliet's here all the time. So if you have further questions, please come back, post them, ask them, connect to some mentors through streams if you're looking for a specific take on the part of the journey you're on. I know they're a great team and they're there to help, but really thank you. Heidi, Ruth, Juliet, it's been wonderful to talk with you today, and really value the wisdom you've shared and the encouragement that you've given us all, and definitely some challenges too.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the panel is basically what is the value of mentoring, and I hope that some of you've realized, actually, you know, if you know that you've got that need and that what mentoring can bring for you, that you will go and find those who can come alongside you and just help you. As I did share in the chat, you know, friends can also offer you unhelpful advice, like, why don't you put your child back in school? Or, well, it was your decision to home educate, so, you know, it's not really helpful. So, you know, that's why, you know, you want to be talking to someone who gets you and understands why you've made the decisions. And yeah, so that's the last bit from me.
Well, thank you to you all. It's really good to see you, and we'll see you in some other talks along the way.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome.